y'all, this is Jillian from Maxine Makes Magic. Welcome back to my channel. We are back for my Disney Resorts food series this week. And if you can tell by my attire, we're getting a little bit groovy today because we're headed over to Disney's Pop Century Resort to try our hands at making, yes, the tie-dye cheesecake. Give you guys a little bit of background on Pop Century. The resort opened in 2003. It actually was a resort that I went to quite often growing up. It is one of my absolute favorite value resorts, if not my favorite value resort on the Walt Disney World Resort property, which can be a hot take because I know it's not everybody's favorite, but it is themed to the decades. It goes all the way back to the 50s and up through the 90s. So it is groovy, fun. I absolutely love the idea. And just like any other value resort, you're gonna have your oversized props. You're gonna have huge roller skates. You're gonna have Rubik's Cubes. Oh my gosh, giant foosball. Depending on the decade and what was popular during that time is what's featured in that area of the resort. So Everything Pop Food Court is what hosts this cheesecake today. It's at the super fun resort and I'm so excited to make this with y'all today. Now, what is it that makes this cheesecake so popular, you might ask? Well, it's in the name, it's tie-dye. It's as simple as that. And truthfully, this recipe is so easy. All we're looking at here is a red velvet cake base topped with traditional vanilla cheesecake. It's as simple as that, but this treat is over the top due to its tie-dye pattern. This is our inspiration photo for the day. It comes right from my parents who snagged it earlier this year when they were down in Orlando. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for the inspiration picture for today. Super excited to dive into this one. As always, the recipe is going to be down in the description below. So go ahead and check that out for all the ingredients you're gonna need in order to make this bad boy. But without further ado, we're gonna get into our ingredient roundup and then we'll go ahead and get started on this super simple Walt Disney World Resort treat. All right, y'all, so for today's ingredient roundup, we're gonna keep this short, sweet, simple. One of the very first things you're gonna need is just any store-bought red velvet cake box. I went with Betty Crocker here, and you're just gonna bake it to the recipe or the box's instructions. And then of course you have everything that you will need in order to make your cheesecake filling. So without further ado, you're gonna need 1.5 pounds of cream cheese. This is what makes cheesecake cheesecake. It is the most important thing for the recipe in my opinion. After that, you're also going to need 1 1/3 cups of sugar, 5 large eggs, which I have over here, some Daisy sour cream. You're gonna need 16 ounces of this bad boy here, 1/4 cup of flour, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and some lemon juice. And last but not least, in order to get that Pop Century Pop and Color cheesecake, you are going to need your gel food color. That is what's going to make your cheesecake have that tie-dye effect. And we can mix colors together using your good old color wheel that you learned in elementary school in order to make the right colors we need for this cheesecake. So we need red, purple, yellow, blue, green, and orange to make our tie-dye cheesecake. And that is our ingredient roundup today. Let's get into making our red velvet cake base. Y'all already know I have to get my Disney apron on before I get started on this, y'all. We're going to make the red velvet cake first. Easy peasy, good place to start. Makes things simple. You just follow the instructions in the box. I'll buzz through this really quickly because y'all will be able to follow this at home. But you need a cup of water, 1/2 cup of oil, 3 eggs. That's how you make your box. And before you even start that, I highly recommend taking a look at the back and preparing your oven and get that heated because you're gonna want that ready to go when you've got your pan ready to go into the oven. So for this particular recipe, we are using a Springform Pan. Springform just means literally as it sounds. It has a little spring mechanism in order to take out the bottom like this, like so. And the reason we do that is because at the end of the recipe, once we're done, we're gonna wanna be able to unlatch that just like I did and have a really clean lift for the cake because the bottom part's still gonna stick, obviously, to the cake base. It just makes things a lot easier than trying to cut and lift the cake out of a traditional pan, you're gonna want Springform for this. You're also gonna wanna grease this, whether it's with butter or with oil. I will leave that up to you. Either one works, just a really nice light coating. That'll make sure that as you lift, or I guess as you unlatch the Springform pan, it won't stick and it'll make a really nice clean exit once you take it off. All right, it is mixed, it looks good. We got your freezer pan. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some oil. Okay. I'm going oil today. You see I add a nice generous amount here. What you're gonna do, and you're gonna see me go off screen for a second, so bye. This is why I need a mic, y'all. It's just something that I have to justify getting for myself. I have my own personal goals of this channel growing, and I set like little breadcrumbs of things I have to work towards before I can buy them. My microphone is one of those things. But as I digress, back over here. I even need more oil than I thought. Actually, no, I don't. That was a good amount of oil. I added probably like 2 tablespoons of oil in here. But if you look, I'm going around with a piece of paper towel and just soaking up some of that oil onto the paper towel. So we're lightly greasing. We're not over greasing this, or else it'll absorb into the cake and that would just be gross. Let's not do that. So simple, easy peasy greased pan. Okay. Bon voyage cake. Right into the pan. I love the color. I know it's red dye 40. I know it's supposed to be like terrible for us, but it's just so pretty. I'm gonna bake the entire thing up. You can take this off, we can cut it, or you can just do half of the cake in here. It's whatever you wanna do. Either way is gonna work. I've got a cake cutter, so I'm gonna use that, or you can use a larger serrated knife or cut the cake in half, so you'll have that nice thin layer, and then you'll just pop this Springform right back on once this cake has had the time to cool. That's super important. So I've got this on, I've got my Springform locked. Now I have made the mistake of having a Springform pan not locked fully. I would highly recommend taking another cookie sheet or a baking sheet and put it underneath of this on your secondary rack in your oven. So if for whatever reason you make an oopsie and this starts to leak, you do not have to clean your oven, you just have to clean a pan. Big word of advice there. So we're gonna pop this bad boy in. We're about 25 degrees off. All right. Set timer for 25 minutes. Simple as that. Now y'all just get to see my messy kitchen behind me. So bad. Okay, we're gonna take the cake out of the oven and just check to see. There's my head. We're just gonna check to see if it is good to go. Like I said, it's gonna puff up because I use the entire mix and it's still wet. So it needs to go back in for a little bit, but it's looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. I'm gonna give it another like 3 minutes or so, and then we should be golden. I'm back. We are back for attempt number 2. Let's see. And just 3 more minutes onto our time here. Oh, perfect. We are done. I'm gonna set that baby aside. Properly close my oven. Be careful when you do this. And we're gonna let it cool, because this is gonna need to cool for probably 45 minutes to an hour, if I'm being honest with you guys. As you can see, I have no idea how to look at you guys and not the screen. I'm so messed up. I apologize. But let me get another mitt on so I can show you guys. This video is so chaotic today. I'm kind of here for it because it explains my life really, really well. Look at how pretty. It smells so good. Okay, we're gonna let it cool. It's probably gonna need at least 20 to 30 minutes in the Springform to cool before you really wanna cut it or do anything with it. Let it chill out. You're not doing anything with it anytime soon. Just let it sit, let it cool. Do not put it in the fridge because you're gonna have too much moisture build up. Don't do that, but let it sit aside and cool. And now we can make the filling, which I'm so excited about. So let's do it. All right, y'all, let's get started on our cheesecake filling. We're gonna add our cream cheese to our stand mixer bowl. And keep in mind, this cream cheese has been sitting out at room temperature. All the ingredients for this recipe should be at room temperature. We'll then go ahead and fit our stand mixer with our paddle attachment and run the mixer for probably about 5 minutes, feeding at anywhere from a 2 to a 4 level speed. In order to avoid any lumps or clumps in our cheesecake filling, we want to stop the mixer every so often and scrape down the bowl as well as the beater attachment. I ran through this process 2 times in increments of 5 minutes to end up with this really light and fluffy cream cheese. Switching gears, we can start by adding our sugar into our mixer. We're gonna run this on low and add just little amounts at a time until it's fully incorporated. I would recommend pausing the mixer halfway through and scraping down the sides of the bowl throughout this process. Now that we've incorporated our sugar, we can start by adding in our eggs. You'll wanna run the mixer on low and add an egg in at a time. With all 5 eggs incorporated, we can add in our vanilla, our flour, as well as our lemon juice. Once those ingredients are fully incorporated after running the mixer on low, we can add our sour cream as our last ingredient for our cheesecake filling. Run the mixer on low one final time, and once it's combined, we can get to the fun part of cutting the cake and adding the color. To prepare our cake layer, we're going to want to start by unlatching the Springform pan. From there, we can use either a serrated knife or a cake cutter, whatever you have at home, because you're going to want to cut off that dome section from the top of the cake. I left about 1.5 to 2 inches for the base of my cake. This just made sure that we had a nice base layer for the cheesecake filling without having an inconsistent bite, because you want to have a good balance between your cheesecake filling and your base layer of cake. From here, you can relatch the ring around the cake base and set the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. For my favorite part of today's recipe, we're going to divide the cheesecake filling into 6 different bowls. We want to dye each individual bowl a different color to match the rainbow, of course. 1 red, 1 yellow, green, blue, purple, and orange. You can use as much or as little food dye as you like, or consider alternatives if you're not a big fan of using food dye. I went with as potent of a color as I wanted or desired for my recipe, and I think they turned out pretty good. Once all your colors have been prepared, you're going to want to dollop each individual color all throughout the cake base in varying patterns. I also recommend doing this in multiple layers. When you go to swirl it later, you have a really cool tie-dye effect. This is where I want you guys to have fun with the recipe or get your family or friends involved. You really can't go wrong here. You can layer it however you want, because the trick is going to be the spiral effect. Now this is where the magic happens, y'all. We're going to take the back of a knife and gently drag it through the cheesecake layer in order to achieve this desired swirl effect, making sure we don't drag all the way down through the cake layer to avoid cake crumbs in our cheesecake filling. Our cheesecake is ready to go into the oven for 1 hour and 15 minutes. A quick tip is try to avoid opening the oven door and checking on the progress. Turn the oven light on and just watch it as it goes. To check to ensure your cheesecake is done, you can do the jiggle test. You're going to want to use your oven mitts and pull the cheesecake out of the oven, slightly jiggling it to see if it kind of moves in the center like Jell-O with the outside set, to let you know that your cheesecake is ready to cool. To best cool your cheesecake, you're going to want to slightly open the oven door and keep it in there for about 1 hour to 1.5 hours before chilling overnight for 24 hours. I am super excited to give this cheesecake a try, but before we dive into this Disney's Pop Century Tie-Dye Cheesecake, let's talk a little bit more about the things that you can avoid at home to help make sure you don't have that giant crack in the top of your cheesecake like I did. It should still, for the most part, taste just fine, but here's a few tips to keep in mind when you're making cheesecake as someone who's made cheesecake for the first time, and I'm learning right alongside you. The first thing to keep in mind is if your cake is overbaked, underbaked, it can crack. So it's really hard. That's the hardest thing, I guess. When I say the recipe was easy earlier, I think the hardest part of this recipe is kind of understanding when your cake is done. It'll crack if it's overbaked. It could also crack if it's underbaked, But the most common reason for why a cheesecake will crack is because you take it out of the oven too quickly. I think I opened my oven just enough to let that heat out when I was letting it cool down in there for an hour, and that's what caused our cheesecake to crack. We'll give it a taste here in just a second, and that will tell us if it's the right consistency, because if it's overbaked, it'll be curdled, and if it's underbaked, it just wouldn't have set properly. So we know it either overbaked or baked the right amount. The other thing you can keep in mind in order to help avoid the cracking is by trying the water bath method. I have not tried that myself, so feel free to do some research, but I've heard from many folks that is a tried and true way that they help avoid their cake from cracking. It's a method that is very well known, so if you give it a shot, let me know in the comments if it worked for you. I will be making cheesecake again in the future after this experience because it's not as daunting as I thought it was gonna be, and even though, again, the cheesecake cracked, this is not a fail. This recipe went as good, if not better, than I could have imagined it going, and it looks just like the tie-dye cheesecake at Disney, maybe just a hair lighter because I think they use a ton of dye in order to achieve that cheesecake color. I don't know how else they're doing it. I think it turned out pretty dang spectacular. So you know what that means. It is time for the taste test. Okay, it's time for the taste test. I'm super excited. Okay, I hope it tastes as good as it looks because it looks pretty dang good. I'm so excited. I'm gonna get a nice, ooh, that went through so cleanly. The colors on this, you guys, it's insane. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. We did it. We did it. It's baked. It's not underbaked. It's not curdled. It's so smooth and velvety and rich. Oh my goodness, you guys. Speechless, over the moon, super excited. This is perfect. Despite the crack on the top of the cheesecake, this is perfect. It was easy. You guys should seriously try this one at home. I think it'd be really fun to do with your kids or your friends, family, especially with your kids, because dyeing the different colors is certainly something that they can help with. This is a home run, y'all. I'm pretty speechless about this one today. I'm super pumped. I am traditionally someone who likes like a graham cracker crust on the bottom of my cheesecake. I think the red velvet's good. The cheesecake layer is what's really getting me, but the red velvet layer, I think the box mix worked great. It's exactly what I expect it to be. It's not too thick, it's not too thin, it's a cake layer. I think a graham cracker crust would probably help provide a little bit of texture here, but that's not the recipe from Disney. It's a cake layer, so we definitely nailed that. The cheesecake is smooth, it's velvety. I think I could have used a little bit more vanilla, but it's definitely got that traditional tangy cheesecake flavor. This is just bananas. I don't know what else to say. It's great, guys. You should definitely go ahead and try it at home. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I had so much fun heading over to Disney's Pop Century Resort today to try our hands at the tie-dye cheesecake. If you liked today's video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. This is one of the many recipes I have live currently on the channel, so you can check out the playlist over on the channel for more recipes just like this one. As always, this is Jillian from Maxie Makes Magic, and I hope you have a magical day. Bye, guys!